Today on Northern Revolutions, we're doing the Violent Community thread, Spell Your City. So stay tuned. Hey, Violent Community, welcome to Northern Revolutions. I'm Rob. Welcome back if you're returning. Welcome if you're new. Doing a quick Violent Community thread video today. Mike from MGK Boston started a thread a couple days ago where he thought it might be fun if we spelled the name of the city we live in or where we live using records. I think it's a great idea, and I got to do it for a couple of reasons. Gives me the opportunity to show some records, number one. I've talked to Mike quite a bit through YouTube, and I keep it purposely vague where I live, Southern Ontario, near Toronto. I don't actually live in Toronto, though that is the city that I'm going to spell today, because for anyone, anywhere in the world, that's close enough, because if I actually spelled where I live, you wouldn't find it anyway. So I used the closest big city. So I'm gonna do that. But the funny thing about it is Mike, who lives in Boston, his wife is actually from the small town that I live in, and her parents still live here. What a small world. So I just thought it might be fun. For those two reasons, I'm gonna do Mike's thread. So without further ado, I'm going to spell Toronto because I live very near Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I'm going to spell that with records today. So here we go. We're going to start with T, the Traveling Wilburys. This is volume 3, which is their second album. Go figure. I've shown volume 1 before. I mean, I don't think anyone's unfamiliar with the Traveling Wilburys. I mean, the most super of super groups. Their first album is outstanding. I really like the second album. Unfortunately, Roy Orbison is not on this album because he passed away. And his presence is noticeably absent. I had read, and I don't know if it's true, that after he passed, they were looking at recruiting Del Shannon to fill his spot in the Wilburys, and then he died as well, so they just continued as a 4-piece. While Orbison's presence is noticeably absent, I still think this is a fantastic record. How can it not be? George Harrison, Tom Petty, Bob Dylan, and Jeff Lynne. I mean, there are some great songs in here. I really like The Devil's Been Busy, Seven Deadly Sins, The Wilbury Twist is fun. Where Were You Last Night? I mean, it sounds very much like the first record. So why is it called Volume 3? I think that's their sense of humor. And Tom Petty's Full Moon Fever is sort of unofficially Wilbury's Volume 2, because I think everyone at some point plays on that record. So T, Traveling Wilburys Volume 3. O, the Old 97s. I've talked about the Old 97s before. They're a country rock band from Texas. I think they're awesome. This is their album from 2008 called Blame It on Gravity. I think this is their third album. This is the one, I believe, that came after Too Far to Care, which was their major label debut release. This is really good. I mean, The Fool, Dance With Me, Here's to the Halcyon, No Baby I mean, this is just great up-tempo rock, country rock. Yeah, I love this album. Might actually be my favorite Old 97s record. I mean, Too Far to Care is pretty incredible, but this gives it a run for its money. So, O, the old 97s. R, the Royal Guardsman. This is an interesting novelty record. The Royal Guardsman. This album came out in, I don't know, 60 something, 67. The Royal Guardsmen were a band from Ocala, Florida. I can't tell you the names of the members because I don't know. They sort of made it big with the novelty hit Snoopy versus the Red Baron, and it was kind of a novelty hit. Interestingly enough, they never asked Chuck Schultz permission to talk about Snoopy in their song, and so consequently he never gave permission. And the Canadian label that looked after the Peanuts intellectual property in Canada refused to release the album. Eventually, Chuck did give them their blessing, and their albums came out in Canada. This is, I guess, greatest hits because it's got all of their Snoopy songs. Snoopy and the Red Baron, The Return of the Red Baron, Snoopy's Christmas. This is a Canadian pressing on Laurie Records, which I think is part of Quality Records. Anyway, it's just a fun, interesting, goofy novelty record. The Royal Guardsmen, R. T-O-R-O, another O. I don't have a ton of O's. Lindi Ortega. I think I've mentioned Lindi before. I think I showed her album Little Red Boots. This is her 2012 debut called Cigarettes and Truck Stops. Or maybe this was the one I showed. I don't remember. Lindi is, she's a country musician from, I think she's from Toronto, but for a good portion of her career, she was based in Nashville. And this album was actually produced by Colin Linden, pretty famous producer, also a member of a great band called Black and the Rodeo Kings. I should show them one of these days. This is just a great sort of female country album, and it's sort of the, traditional old school country. I don't know squat about country, so I tend to think of old school country like the original, like Hank Williams, Tear in My Beer, and that kind of thing. And that this is a modern kind of that sort of sound, traditional early country music, sung by an incredible female singer. I met Lindi a couple times. She's wonderful. She puts on a great live show. She's now based in Western Canada. I don't think she's put anything out in a while, but she's got about, I think, 6 albums, and I've got all of them. I enjoy them even though I'm not a big country music fan. So, Lindi Ortega. Also wearing the shirt, that was pure coincidence. The next letter in Toronto is N. I only have 2 records to start with N. It's either Stevie Nicks, which I showed in a video just recently, or No Doubt. Return of Saturn. This is their album from 2000. This was the follow-up to the massively successful Tragic Kingdom. I don't have Tragic Kingdom on vinyl. My wife does in her record collection upstairs, but I do need to get it one of these days. But this was the sequel. And I think there were only 2 singles off here, Ex-Girlfriend and Simple Kind of Life. I think it's a good record. I think this is very much like Tragic Kingdom. This was before No Doubt went shitty. I stumbled on this in a record store a couple months back. I'd never ever seen this on vinyl, and as far as I can tell, it was only pressed 15 years ago or whatever. So for some reason, this has been languishing in a record store, still sealed, for a number of years. So glad that I picked this up. N, No Doubt. Next letter is T, Trooper. This is their album Thick as Thieves. I've mentioned Trooper before. This album came out in 1978. Trooper are a Canadian band. I've used the analogy before that they're like our version of Cheap Trick, and I think that's pretty fair. It's that same kind of sound. It's that same kind of rock and roll. We also have a crazy guitar player. The song that people might know off of this, Raise a Little Hell, was a hit for them in the US. I think probably their only big hit in the US, but this is just a great 70s rock. If you like Cheap Trick, you'll like Trooper. And the last letter, O, Oasis. I only have 3-letter O's. Ortega, Old 97s, and Oasis. So Toronto's got 3 O's, so that worked out for me. This is their 3rd album, Be Here Now. Was the follow-up to the monumental What's the Story, Morning Glory, which, how do you top that? You can't. This was an incredibly lavish production. I mean, the band was zonked out on coke most of the time. Lavishly overproduced. I mean, there's some songs that have 60 guitar tracks on it, which is absurd. That said, I still really like it. There are some great songs in here. I really liked You Know What I Mean, My Big Mouth, Stand By Me. All Around the World is a very Beatlesque song. This here is actually an original 1997 pressing. Nearly impossible to find. Crazy expensive. Those original Oasis 90s first pressings are... I can't afford them, so I'm lucky that I've had this one for a very long time. I wish I had What's the Story, Morning Glory, and Definitely Maybe. I have reissues, but I don't have the originals. I wish I did. So, Be Here Now, Oasis. There you go, Mike. There's Toronto, spelled in records. Hope you enjoyed that. I'll leave the link for MGK Boston so you can see Mike's video. That's everything for me today. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the flip side. Bye.